Hey everyone, Emily here from Emily Reads, and today I am bringing to you my worst books read in 2021. Now, a couple of things to note. One, these are books that I read in 2021. They aren't necessarily books that came out this year. Two, this list is subjective. Um, Writing and books is an art form, and like all art is subjective. There is no like set standard of here's what makes a good book and here's what makes a good film or here's what makes a good painting. Um, so it's all based on personal preferences. So for me, these were my worst books read in 2021. Um, I know that some of you probably will have enjoyed the books that I've read. I know for a fact that my top two worst books read, a lot of people really love. The top one is a woman's prize winning author, like a women's literature, best book in women's literature the year that it came out. So I know that one is very subjective. Um, but the top two for me were the worst because I think in part because I had such great and high hopes for these two books. Um, so that being said, this is my list. I'm going to go in reverse order to the top. So I'm going from number 7 to number 1. I didn't have 10 books. I know a lot of people like to have around like 5 or 10 for a number. I ended up coming up with 7. I didn't want to force it to 10. I didn't think that would be fair to the other three books that I would have put on that list to get to 10. And I had more than 5. So I just left it with like, here are my 7 that I thought were the worst books. So that being said, number 7, and I should also add, I don't have these books anymore because I unhauled them all and got rid of them. And I don't know how to video edit. So I know some people will put up like pictures of the books. I don't know how to do that. I would love to know how to do that. I would love to know how to edit, put those things in, and then post videos into YouTube. So if someone has a good resource that they want to comment in the comments below, like here's where to go to find out information on how to do that, I would love to know. Please share that information with me. As I am a newbie, a booktuber newbie, and I am wanting to learn how to do these things. So that being said, number 7 is The Ex-Hex by Ernest. And I knew going into it, it was going to be a light romance. This is basically the story of a girl who she had a summer fling with someone, and they break up, and she's a witch, and her aunt's saying was, you never mix magic with vodka. While she was drinking, she was upset about the breakup, and she places a hex on her ex-boyfriend. And 9 years later, they re-meet, and chaos kind of ensues because of the hex that she put on him. And there were a lot of problems. One, I thought it was really strange to have so much hate for each other when it was a 3-month summer fling when they were young, and now it's 9 years later. Two, I felt like the majority of the plot wasn't building their relationship. It was like, oh, I think they're hot and I want to jump their bones. So that's why I had problems with the book. I wanted to enjoy it as a fun romance around Halloween time. I mean, it is what it was, but it wasn't. I've read better romances, so that's why it made the list. Number 6 was Rebel by Marie Lu, and now I loved the Legend trilogy. To me, as far as dystopian fiction, young adult dystopian fiction, it ranks right up there for me with Hunger Games. I found that the series as a whole better than Divergent. I really loved the Legend series. And Rebel is the fourth book, and it picks up the story 10 years later, and it follows the same characters. And for me, I really felt like this was Marie Lu's kind of response to her fandom saying, and I could be speculating here, please understand that when I say this, but it felt like Marie Lu's response to her fandom not being happy with the ending um, of the third book. Um, and the ending of the third book is not a neat, clear, happy ending. To me, I felt like it was. To me, I felt like it was a hopeful ending. But I think this was written years later, and I think um, it was kind of to me it felt like the fandom was like we don't like this ending, we want something more, and so Marie Lu wrote that in response. I felt like the trilogy was already complete and didn't need this fourth book. To me, it felt like the fourth book was just kind of a rehashing of the entire trilogy, but in one book 10 years later. So it just was like, it wasn't necessary, it wasn't needed, it was a disappointment. So I think I put that in my classroom library. Maybe some of my students will enjoy reading it, but for me, I was done. The fifth book was a book that I DNF'd, and that is The Girl the Sea Gave Back by Adrienne Young. And I wanted to enjoy it. I really enjoyed Sky in the Deep by her, and this book picks up several years later, and it doesn't have the same main characters, but there's a side character in Sky in the Deep that that becomes a main character in The Girl the Sea Gave Back. And I felt like this book was trying to do too much. It had a past plot line and it had a present plot line, and then it had two different point of views within the past and the present plot lines. So it was just too much in a 300-page book. Like, the characters weren't developed, and I honestly didn't really care for the two main characters. So after 100 pages, I was like, why am I still reading this when I have so many other books that I would want to read? So after a third of reading that book, I said, I'm done. Number 4 was Ready Player 2 by Ernest Klein. I was really hoping to enjoy this book. I really enjoyed Ready Player 1. I thought Ready Player 1 was very innovative, really cool, enjoyed all the 80s references. Ready Player 1 felt like it was just a repeat of Ready Player 2, nothing original, so that was irritating. Really hated the main character this go around. And I don't think that we're supposed to like him, but I didn't find too much redeemable about him. And I can't even remember the main character's name. And I also felt like there was a point in the plot where at one point they end up on a planet that's based solely centered around Prince and his music and his life. And I felt like we just spent so much time on the Prince planet that was just not necessary to the plot development. So I just found Ready Player 2 to be tedious. Number 3 was Sing You Home by Jodi Picoult. And Jodi Picoult used to be an auto-buy for me. Like, I loved her earlier works. I loved Plain Truth. I loved The Pact. I loved 19 Minutes. I loved Salem Falls. Like, I loved all her earlier stuff. And for me, I felt like as she's gotten older or gotten further along in her career, to me, I feel like she's become predictable and formulaic and not all that exciting. So, like, when I picked up Sing You Home and I knew what the plot was about, I knew how it was going to end even before I started reading it. And I guessed how it was going to end, and I was pretty much right on. And so for me, it was just kind of like, meh. It's disappointing to me when she used to be someone that I'd pick up and be like, what is going to be the twist? Like, I always knew that there was going to be some big plot twist. And I couldn't figure it out, and now she's just become very formulaic for me. So she's not an auto-buy for me anymore. She's not really someone I want to read anymore. And so it just made me kind of sad. Number 2 was Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. And this one was a book that I've been looking forward to reading ever since it came out and hearing the buzz about it. Like, I was so excited to read a young adult fantasy book by a person of color, about people of color, set in like an African world. Like, the whole premise just, like, I was so excited about it. About, you know, magic and how there's a group of people that are magicians, but like they don't have their full powers, and they're being sought after and they're trying to get wiped out by, or the nobility line is trying to wipe them out, and they're being oppressed. And so I was super excited about it because of all of the potential that was there within that storyline to talk about racial issues, to talk about social justice issues, and it's there. Like, she does talk about it. What I had a problem with it is, one, like, if you're gonna create a new world. Like, I felt like some of the animals' names, it was like, okay, it's a gorilla-ron. Like, okay, like, we know it's clearly a gorilla. Like, some of the names just, she didn't really take the time to create a new world. She just kind of built upon what had already existed. 2, there was a love plot in there that, with a character that one minute he hates you, the next minute he loves you, now he hates you, now he loves you, like, can you just make up your mind? Like, and are you stupid? Like, because he keeps going back and forth. Like, why are you saying that you love him when he keeps going back and forth and you clearly can't trust this person? Like, it was just irritating. So that whole aspect. 3rd, you're creating this world. It's clearly set in Africa. These are clearly Africans. And one of the characters says, "Hey, you guys!" Like, what? Like, it was so jarring to read modern day slang in a world where that should not be. So I thought, premise-wise, super neat. But she did not execute the premise well. And so for me, that's why it's in the number 2 spot, because I was expecting more from it, and I didn't get what I was expecting and what I was hoping for. The last one, and I feel like this book, and just being in some readers groups on Facebook, I feel like people either love this book or they're so underwhelmed and so disappointed. There is no middle ground, and I am the person who is so disappointed with this book. And that is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I also desperately really wanted to like this book because this won a Women's Prize for Literature. It is about Shakespeare. It is about his marriage to his wife. It is about his son and his son who dies. His son is Hamnet, and that death of his son is allegedly the inspiration for the play of Hamlet. And I love the play Hamlet. I think Hamlet is my favorite play by Shakespeare. And to be fair, I've only read Taming the Shrew, Julius Caesar, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Henry IV, Part 1, Hamlet. So I've only read 6 plays. Oh, Midsummer Night's Dream, 7. I've read more than I thought I did. But I love Hamlet. I was expecting beautiful lyrical writing. I didn't get it. And some people thought her writing was very lyrical. I got the lyrical writing the last 3 pages of the book. When I hit those last 3 pages, the writing was very lyrical. There was tension. There was what I was wanting the entire book, and I got it in the last 3 pages. And so for me, that's why it's number one, because I was hoping for more. I didn't get it until the last 3 pages, and from what was a prize-winning book, for it to fall so flat for me, that's why it's number one for the for the worst books read. Again, this list is very subjective. This is what I thought was worst. You could completely disagree with me. You could have thought that Hamnet was great. And you know what? That's great. I'm glad that you enjoyed that book. For me, I didn't. Let me know your comments down below. What were your worst books? What are your best books? Do you disagree with me on anything? If you disagree, please keep those comments respectful. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day.